Dzień dobry Państwu. Cześć Katowice. Hello everyone. How is Summit going for you? All good? Nice, nice, nice. I really like that this session about FinOps is the last today. We almost made it, right? And you learned whole day how to spend money on AWS. And now we are going to talk about how to do it in a smart way and to do it in a cost-efficient, a cost-effective way. My name is Yuri Prihodko. I'm Principal Technical Account Manager at AWS. I'm also leading a project which is called Cloud Intelligence Dashboards in AWS. Before we begin, you probably have seen in the agenda that we plan to deliver this session with my co-speaker from OLX, Pedro Veloso. Unfortunately, due to last-minute personal emergency, Pedro couldn't travel today, so apologies for that. I will cover the OLX use case on behalf of him because we spent a lot of time on preparing for this presentation, so don't worry, we will talk about OLX as well. All right, let's kick off. So how the market outlook looks like today. Few numbers for you just to understand the importance of the topic. In 2025, global cloud spend is going to increase for yet another 22% and will reach more than 720 billions. At the same time, very interesting number is, on average, customers tell us that 27% of their cloud spend falls into category of infrastructural waste or cloud waste. So basically, 27% of workloads which they run don't bring any business value. It's also second year in a row when managing the cloud cost has overtaken security as a top challenge which organizations report across the different domains. At the same time, when we work with customers and we see the customers who implemented successfully cloud financial management discipline in their organization, they tell us that it helps them to grow their revenue and grow their business. It's very important to understand that in the cloud, cost is an operational metric, right? Pretty similar to your business operational metric or any other operational metrics that you have. It's not static, right? And it's scalable metric. It scales up and down with your demand and with your growth of the business and with your usage. It's variable metric. You no longer need to have upfront capital investment and fixed capital investments. You pay as you go, and you can quickly get more compute exactly when you need it. So it's variable. And it's also decentralized metric. There is no longer one single financial or procurement team who actually takes care about your hardware costs or cost of infrastructure. Every solution architect, every software engineer can trigger the cost by deploying workloads in the cloud. So every architectural decision is a purchase decision, right? While it brings a lot of benefits such as increased agility, reduced time to market, ability to scale quickly, it also brings additional challenges with managing the cost as an operational metric, especially at scale of large organization. That's where FinOps comes in help as a practice. So let's define the FinOps. It's an operational framework and cultural practice which maximizes the business value of the cloud and technology, enables timely driven decision making, and creates financial accountability through collaboration between the engineering, finance, and business teams. So that's the definition of FinOps from FinOps Foundation. Today, in this session, we are going to talk about how to implement FinOps, and we will cover it from three different perspectives: from people, processes, and technology. Very simple, right? So let's talk about processes. First of all, FinOps is not about how to spend less. FinOps is about how to maximize the business value of your investment in the cloud and in the technology. It's very important to understand that in the cloud, every architectural detail, every architectural change which you make in different well-architected pillars such as security, reliability, performance will always find its reflection in the cost. In the concept of the frugal architect from our CTO, Werner Vogels, he actually calls cost as a non-functional requirement because it becomes de facto a non-functional requirement. Because when you want to improve performance, you need to think about cost implication of improved performance, what impact it will have on your business, and what the outcome you will get. Another thing that I want to cover is to maximize the business value of the cloud. First of all, you need to measure it, right? And to measure it, just tracking your cost over time is really not enough. You need to see your cost in comparison to your business metrics, right? You need to see how this cost drives your business. In other terms, if I show you a picture like this, you can clearly see that with a pretty much stable growth of cost, your business grows much faster than your AWS bill, right? So that's exactly what you kind of want to achieve. And if you divide cost by business driver or by your business metrics which you track, you get a very nice and effective metric which is called unit cost, which actually you can use to measure cost effectiveness of your workloads. And as you can see on the graph, it actually nicely represents the picture. So we actually have unit cost over time reducing, so it means that cost effectiveness increasing. And the unit cost is not fixed. Cost is operational metric, right? It's dynamic. And the good news that you can implement many improvements to actually reduce your unit cost and increase cost effectiveness. You can, for example, implement right sizing and use the most appropriate instances by type and by size for your workloads. You can improve elasticity and use auto-scaling, for example. Scale with the demand, don't over-provision. And you can implement instance scheduling and turn off workloads when you don't need them. You can also identify idle resources and idle workloads and reduce the cloud waste, right? And when you optimize your baseline, you can look at the rate optimization, such as reserved instances, savings plans, to reduce your pricing rate in exchange of 1 or 3 years commitment. You can also have a look on different types of optimizations, not only for compute, like you can optimize the storage and use the most appropriate or most cost-effective storage types for your workloads, for EBS, for S3, for FSX. You can also improve your architectures and use more cloud-native patterns, right? So, and if you track your unit cost or cost per your business driver, you can actually see how all these optimizations reflected in the reduction of the unit cost. From the other side, if you track it over time and you see that unit cost increases, it actually provides you a high-level indication that you need to have a look and dive deeper and find more advanced optimization opportunities and think what you can improve to actually bring it back to the level where it used to be. So it's a very powerful metric to track. From the other side, how do we know how well we're actually leveraging all these cost optimization opportunities, especially at scale of large organization? So for that, I really recommend to establish a way how to measure efficiency on multiple different levels. And first level is cost efficiency KPIs. You can start tracking basically every optimization opportunity as a metric. For example, adoption of Graviton-based instances, which are more effective than Intel or AMD ones. You can track your, for example, adoption of EBS GP3 volumes, which are more cost-effective than GP2 ones. Or you can turn into a metric things like amount of obsolete EBS snapshots, which, for example, older than 1 year, compared to all EBS snapshots which you own. So all these optimization opportunities can be turned into cost efficiency KPIs. And if you start tracking them over time, and especially if you bring this as an organizational KPIs for your engineers, for other teams, it will also serve as a guidelines what exactly our company is tracking and what we can possibly optimize, what we can should look for. But it's a lot of these metrics, and they usually serve a good way for basically to track how well you leverage in particular efficiency improvement. But what does it mean for our cost of infrastructure overall? For that, you can track infrastructure unit costs. So it's the next level of the measuring of cost efficiency. And you can start measuring things like average cost of instance hour or normalized instance hour. You can measure average cost of per gigabyte of EBS storage, average cost of gigabyte of for S3 storage. And these metrics quite easy to track, right? You just need cost and usage data. You don't even need here any additional information. From the other side, you can actually see how all the optimizations that you make on the previous level make impact and reflected in your cost of architecture. And the last level here is basically how you connect this all to business, is measuring business unit cost, what we talked before. It's measuring the cost per business driver. For many different companies, it could be like cost per customer, cost per transaction, cost per booking, cost per revenue. For teams who manage internal systems, it might be cost per API call or things like that. Choosing the metric for business unit cost is quite challenging, but from the other side, it's very, very well rewarding. And establishing these KPIs gives you a foundation of how to manage cost effectiveness of your workloads. Please raise a hand if you measuring business unit cost in your organization. All right, great. That's very, very important and very powerful. But to implement this, we need people, right? We need to create this collaborative environment between engineering, finance, and business teams. So let's talk about this. As I mentioned, in the cloud, cost is not just responsibility of financial or procurement team. While they have their additional responsibilities like analyze cloud spend and analyze the trends, work on budgets and forecasting, they are not the only team who have responsibilities around cost and cost effectiveness. I usually say that FinOps is very similar to security. While there are dedicated FinOps teams, FinOps is everyone's responsibilities. For example, engineers, they should be responsible for cost effectiveness of workloads that they design and workloads that they build and run. For example, in DevOps, we say you build it, you run it. It means that you're responsible for its security, you're responsible for its performance, you're responsible for its reliability. In FinOps, when you build it, you run it, and you're also responsible for its cost effectiveness. Product owners have other responsibilities related to FinOps. For example, understanding cost per feature, which they define and they build. Understanding the business impact and the overall success of the business case. And to drive the strategy, FinOps strategy, and to drive alignment between all these teams, we usually see that now customers more and more start to allocate dedicated FinOps leads in their organizations. Do you have a FinOps team or FinOps lead in your company? All right. And they usually reside within IT. They usually kind of lean to more technical teams, because actually FinOps enables technology to be more efficient as well. And responsibility of FinOps team is to define FinOps strategy, define this cost efficiency KPIs, define the business unit metrics which you want to track, and drive organizational alignment. And of course, to get executive buy-in. Very important in FinOps implementation at scale is to have executives who support this, who champion for FinOps, and who recognize the success stories. It's usually, if I look in any organization who was recognized and for what, it clearly talks about priority of that organization. So do you recognize people for achieving some success in cost efficiency? Right? To make these people work together, to make these personas work together, you also need to think about FinOps not like a project which you implemented and just forgot about it. It's a continuous process of improvements. It starts with good visibility for all stakeholders, providing them tools that could actually give them answers to the KPIs that they track, and drive them towards understanding what cost efficiency improvement opportunities they might have. So basically providing them right visibility to see what they can improve. Then empowering your teams and engineers and prioritizing the efforts to actually work on optimizations, because visibility without action, it's useless, right? So you need to actually prioritize optimization actions and empower your teams to optimize your workloads. And then when you optimized anything, like optimized any part of your application, you should always think about how to get it incorporated into your day-to-day operations and turn this optimization into either automation or make it part of your infrastructure as a code, or make it part of make it part as your architectural blueprints or architectural guidelines or release readiness checklists, to actually share this knowledge across other teams and prevent in the future unoptimized workloads to get deployed in the cloud, rather than chasing all the time, optimizations when they already deployed. And then you go back to this inform phase where you actually measure the impact of your actions, you celebrate success stories, and you look for advanced optimization opportunities. All right, let's talk about tooling now, or technology. Because to give your stakeholders right visibility, you need the right tools for the job. And the tools which actually will accelerate this data-driven decision-making process. At AWS, we provide you many different services and tools which can help you with creating your FinOps toolset or FinOps toolbox. For example, you all know Cost Explorer, right? So it's entry point for cloud visibility. But Cost Explorer also provides a capability of cost anomaly detection, and it can detect your cost anomalies and send you notifications when it happens, so you can react quickly. Do you have cost anomaly notifications set up so you receive them? All right, a lot of people, very nice. If not, I really recommend you to just make sure that someone receives your notifications and acts on them. This is a very powerful tool to prevent, unexpected surprises in cost and billing. Then AWS Budgets, a service which allows you to define your spend boundaries, to define your budgets on many different levels. So you can tag budgets with different levels. For example, you can define a budget for entire organization. You can have some department or business unit leads to define their business units budgets. And you can also have some teams to define their budgets. And by tagging different budgets, you can kind of build this hierarchy of your organizational budget. You can use reserved instances and savings plans recommendations in AWS console, which provide you a lot of recommendations for rate optimization, for reserved instances and savings plans purchases. For example, AWS Compute Optimizer and Trusted Advisor provide you out-of-the-box recommendations for right sizing, for idle resources, and other optimization opportunities. Then you can also use AWS data exports and enable delivery of raw billing data to a S3 bucket and actually analyze the data afterwards. And all these services are great. They serve the purpose and they're a very, very good start. From the other side, in complex scenarios, for example, you might have several AWS organizations which you manage, right? It becomes a bit harder to use these services. Some stakeholders might not have access to AWS console. You might want to have more dashboard-like view or more advanced insights to give your teams. Or you want simply to customize the views, right? Because one size doesn't fit all. The view that you want to give to executive, not necessarily the same view that you want to give to engineer. And that's why we build Cloud Intelligence Dashboards. It's AWS solution which you can deploy in your organization and get your advanced visibility and insights in Amazon QuickSight, our BI tool. We provide CloudFormation templates to deploy it, and once you deploy Cloud Intelligence Dashboards, what happens is you basically turn all the services which we mentioned into the data sources. and they start deliver data into S3 bucket in your AWS account. And you also get automatically deployed Amazon Athena table definitions and Amazon Athena views. So you actually get optimization data lake. And you also get provisioned QuickSight dashboards, which actually built by FinOps experts and SMEs within AWS, such as technical account managers, solution architects, who work every day with complex customers and visualize the data the way it's very actionable and easy to consume. And all this knowledge and experience actually available as an open source, ready to be used dashboards for you. And you can leverage multiple different QuickSight integrations like IAM, SSO, even email integration. And you can provide access to any stakeholder in your organization to these dashboards, even if they don't have access to AWS console. Moreover, you can actually bring third-party sources or your sources, such as business metrics. You can actually deliver this business metrics also to a S3 bucket or any other data source supported by QuickSight, and join it together with your cost and usage data to actually have a dashboard or visibility over your business unit cost. By customizing the dashboards, because they're open source and you can change everything, it's BI tool with pretty much no engineering or software developer skilled, you can build this collaborative environment with fine-tuned views for any stakeholder in your organization and help them to find the answers for the questions and the challenges which they have. We provide several dashboards which can cover different FinOps use cases. For example, for cost visibility and insights, we have a Kudos dashboard. It's one of the most popular ones. It provides you both high-level trends, high-level visibility, and ready-to-be-used metrics such as, for example, effective savings rate to compare how much you are saving, how well you use leveraging things like reserved instances, savings plans, and spot instances, for example. It also goes into details and insights with per resource level granularity. So you can find a lot of detailed views and some ideas for optimizations from this dashboard. For example, KPI dashboard provides you pre-built collection of cost efficiency KPIs, exactly the ones that we mentioned before. So you can get started with just after deploying this dashboard and just tracking it. AWS budget dashboards allows you to visualize this hierarchy of budgets from organizational level to department level to team level. So it allows you to leverage these tags and visualize in a single place in very nice and easy to understand way. When you work on optimization and efficiency, we have some relatively new dashboards which we released recently. For example, Cora, which is based on cost optimization hub data. It actually visualizes the data for right-sizing recommendations, idle resources, savings plans, and the rise. If you plan migration to Graviton, we actually released the Graviton savings dashboards, I think last reInvent, and it allows you to automatically combine data sources like cost and usage report, inventory data for your RDS instances, OpenSearch, Elastic Cache, EC2, and the pricing data, combine it all together and see the list of eligible resources which you can migrate to Graviton, for example, databases with particular open source versions and higher, and estimate the cost which you can save by doing so. So it actually allows you to understand the business impact of the actions and estimate and compare to the effort, right? Very easy. And for example, extended support cost projection. Also, extended support now for RDS, OpenSearch, and EKS. It actually enabled when you run workloads on the versions which are not supported by community. And if you deploy these dashboards, it allows you to actually identify the resources which are going to be enrolled to extended support in the future, depends on the version of the engine which you run, and see what would be the cost of not upgrading the versions, right? And it actually can help you to, to add some motivation to work on the upgrades. We cover also additional use cases. For example, if you use multiple cloud providers, we have a focus dashboard. Focus is FinOps cost and usage specification, which developed by FinOps Foundation and FinOps practitioners and also cloud providers like AWS. So it's basically normalized cloud cost data or cloud cost format. And we support it, and other cloud providers support as well. So if you deploy a Focus dashboard, you get this multi-cloud visibility in one single place. If you run workloads on containers, you can deploy containers cost allocation dashboard and get insights into spend per EKS pod, EKS namespace, or ECS task. Or if you have some more niche use cases, if you use a lot marketplace, we provide a lot of different dashboards for this kind of use cases. So for marketplace, for Amazon Connect, and for other different niche cases, we have also the dashboards. And we don't charge for the usage of these dashboards themselves. You pay only for the use of underlying services, is S3, Athena, and QuickSight. If you haven't tried this before, I really recommend you to have a look and deploy it in your organization. It's very cost effective, and it gives you out of the box quick start into getting into advanced cost visibility and insights. All right, I promised you to speak a little bit about OLX, and let's have a look how it all works together in the practice. Please raise a hand if you used OLX. Okay, right. Everyone knows what OLX does. The company operates in many domains. That's very interesting. So they operate in e-commerce, they operate in real estate, in autos, in jobs and services. So it's a global company and operates across 8 countries. To operate at this scale, they use microservice architecture, and they have more than 1,000 microservices. They serve more than 15 million daily active users, and to do so, they have more than 150 engineering and technical teams. So for them, to manage it in a cost-efficient way, FinOps was exactly what they needed, right? So let's have a look how OLX implemented FinOps or approached FinOps. They approached it from 3 different dimensions. First is driving savings, or actually like improving cost efficiency. Second is establishing the right governance or fundamentals. And third is defining and tracking the key metrics. Let's dive deeper. Improving the efficiency or driving the savings. They focused on 3 different things. First is rate optimization, right? They track effective savings rate. So basically, effective savings rate is the ratio of your rate, which you have due to use of reserved instances, savings plans, and spot, relation to on-demand equivalent. So basically, they track effective savings rate over time, and they react when it goes slower. So they achieved 41% of effective savings rate. They have centralized FinOps team who actually manage reserved instances and savings plans purchases. And they use this incremental approach where they don't purchase like one single big savings plans. They purchase incrementally over smaller chunks over time. So they can always have this flexibility of making some changes, changing the instance types, especially for reserved instances. And for that, they actually work actively with engineering teams and aligns on the plans what engineers do to make sure that when they need to purchase another array coverage, for example, for RDS, they actually understand the plans from engineers, and they won't purchase the instance, they won't cover the instance types which are not going to be used or going to be retired. Then they focus also on usage optimization. There are many use cases where they identify some ways to improve, like S3 storage types, and for example, very great use cases RDS modernization campaigns that they had. So it's one example of many, but basically they had a 6-month project with 4 people involved to migrate their RDS fleet to Aurora from Intel-based instances to Graviton-based instances. Because they calculated how much savings they can have, it was very easy to understand that the potential benefit would be much more than dedicated effort for it. So after this project, they achieved 6x annual return of investment. Another aspect where they look actively for is architect for efficiency, or so-called shift left. It basically embedding cost efficiency into architectural decisions. And in many cases, FinOps team managed to identify workloads or identify the systems or products which actually are not efficient and could be improved. And for example, they had a moderation tool which was very hard to optimize, it was costly, it was hard to scale, and they partnered with engineering team to prioritize the efforts, re-architected the system, and at the end they managed to build it using more cloud-native architecture and patterns, and achieve significant annual savings, and also cut moderation time in half. It's a great example how FinOps drives technical decisions and technical improvements. As for fundamentals, they focused first on the governance and having the right governance model in place. What it means for OLX? They established transparent cost visibility, so basically allowed their teams to see the cost of workloads which they run, to see the cost of the products which they run, not just entire cost, to focus on the things that matter for particular engineers. And for that, they established a clear tagging strategy and tagged resources with the OLX products. As a result, they get a clear structure which provided them right ownership and accountability. And they also use these OLX product tags for cost anomaly detection. Because in cost anomaly detection, you can have multiple dimensions of anomaly monitors. For example, you can monitor anomalies by AWS service. But you can also monitor anomalies by the tags. So they set up the anomaly monitors by OLX products. And that helps them to actually notify engineers with a particular product which they own about anomalies and reduce the time for reaction, because they are no longer sending just general cost anomaly notification and nobody knows who should react on it. They actually were sending anomalies allocated to particular product. So it was very clear who should look for. They established several rituals or like routines. This is a people part of FinOps. So they established FinOps review meetings where all the relevant stakeholders were joining it. They made review of organizational spend, trends, how it relates to existing budgets or planned spend and forecasts. They were adjusting the forecast. And they also track risks and savings opportunities to prioritize the new optimization efforts and to make sure that they understand the business value, and the benefits actually worth the effort. So that's the rituals that they have. And they also deployed the tools for the engineers. For example, they use cloud intelligence dashboards in QuickSight, and they deployed them out of the box, but they also customized those dashboards to create per team or per stakeholder level visibility. So for example, they have different executive reportings based in QuickSight, and another set of dashboards for engineers. They integrated some alerts in Slack and bring them in the tools which engineers use every day. And they also use QuickSight embedding functionality and embedded these dashboards into their internal portals. So basically to the places where the engineers, product owners, and other stakeholders work every day. So they embedded this all tooling into the places where the most closest to the people who can act on this. And they also brought the business metrics and joined it with the cost and created unit cost dashboards for their FinOps and executive teams. As for the unit cost, they discovered several metrics which they could track, and they defined as their North Star metric as daily active users. So basically for OLX, cloud unit cost today is amortized cost divided by daily active users. And they track it over time, and this metric allows them to actually identify the moments where their cost, unit cost becomes like gross, where they need to focus on additional optimizations. Or it also helps them to bring the cost optimization game into completely different level. So when they optimize something, they actually can clearly articulate to business what impact that optimization was on the cost of daily active user. And now, once they establish this unit cost tracking for daily active users, they're looking to other metrics to track. For example, they look at the tracking cost per search request, or cost per chat event, or cost per different recommendations. And actually, they want to get into better granularity of how much impact any change will make and on their business cases. Before we close the session, there are a few things I'd like you to take with. If you want to implement FinOps in your organization, make sure that you have a ways how to measure the business value of your workloads in the cloud and connect it to your business outcomes. It's not just a cost which grows all the time. Yeah, if you manage the business value, you can actually reflect all your actions in the metrics which you track. Define and track those metrics, right? Establish your cost efficiency KPIs, infrastructure unit cost metrics, and business unit metrics in your organization. Make sure that you have all your teams, like engineering, finance, business, know their responsibilities around the FinOps and cost efficiency. Have executive sponsorship and alignment, and maybe also establish the FinOps team, or at least the group of FinOps champions to drive this. And to drive also like this cost-aware culture and FinOps best practices. Empower your teams and prioritize the efforts to actually optimize things, not just report, but also do some actions on the things that could be improved. Empower and enable your teams to use the tooling which is available, which is cost-effective, like AWS services, most of them are free of charge, or the solutions like cloud intelligence dashboards, which are very cost-effective, and give these tools and bring these tools right to your teams who actually can make changes and can make actions out of them. And customize these tools and bring tailored views for any stakeholder to make these data-driven decisions on workloads and for your business. With this, I'd like to thank you for joining our session today. And please, if you want to have more content about the cost efficiency, here is a QR code to provide feedback. And I will be happy to take some questions here near the stage after the session. Thank you so much for joining.